I am an air ambulance HEMS helicopter pilot at London's Air Ambulance Charity. One of the biggest things I've dared to do is just follow my heart. And despite everything, just being resilient enough to actually follow what that calling is and go through with it, whether there's major consequences or not. I'd always admired aviation and people in it, but because I didn't see anybody who looked like me in that position, it literally didn't even occur to me that it was an option for a job. So my goal right now is to just absorb as much as I can to try and be the best that I can be to deliver this service to the people of London, because it is a privilege to have this job.
All right. Hello and welcome to the She Who Dares Wins podcast. My guest today is Adele. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right. So She Who Dares Wins. Can you tell me how you've dared and won?
I've been thinking about this question a lot, and I had a few specific examples in mind, but I figured I would go broad to start. So I think for myself, one of the biggest things I've dared to do is just follow my heart. And despite everything, just being resilient enough to actually follow what that calling is and go through with it, whether there's major consequences or not. That's always an interesting one. But yeah, I would say just able to have that bravery to have the intuition, follow your heart.
Okay. So take us on a journey then of what your job is now and how you got there.
Yeah, sounds good. So I am an air ambulance HEMS helicopter pilot at London's Air Ambulance Charity. I've been there since April this year, so a little bit of a newer post, but I've been flying for 16 years. I've done mostly air ambulance HEMS stuff all over the world. Started in Canada and then flew a little bit in the States doing a few different things, and then Kenya, and then here in the UK.
How does one get into flying?
Yeah, everybody asks me that. It's I can give you the short story long. So I grew up in a small town in Alberta in Canada, and it was sort of a commuter town, quite small. I owe everything to my parents because they are truly two of the hardest working people that I've ever met, even to this day. My dad is a mechanic. My mom, she's a nurse. She's a professor now, but she's pretty much put herself through school and everything on her own back. And having them as an example was pretty incredible. So we grew up not with very much money. I remember my mom telling me a story about losing a $10 bill in her pocket, and that was our money for groceries for the week. And that was pretty much it. So they gave us everything that they could, but money was always tight. So because of that, both of them were always working. My mom would work nights in Emerge. My dad would work, he had his own shop in the back garden and would work on cars and kind of had his own company. And that left me and my brother to hang out and sort of entertain ourselves. And I feel like we grew up sort of wonderfully feral in a way where we would just go out on our bikes. We'd be, playing all day until the streetlights came on. You always hear that story. And he's 4 years older than me. So I would just spend my time trying to keep up with him. So he had a little dirt bike. So we'd go out on the dirt bike and pedal bikes, skiing. I would just be like trying to keep up with him going down the hill and everything I could do to just like keep up with my brother, keep up with my brother.
I know the feeling.
Exactly, yeah. So I feel like that's always a good foundation, but it was just quite like rough and tumble that way. And he knew if he ever brought me home hurt, he would be in huge trouble. So there was one time we were playing on these baseball bleachers in the back, and we're climbing around like monkeys, and I ended up cutting my finger. I still have a scar from it because it was actually quite deep when we're jumping down. And he takes me home because he knows like, oh, this is a bad one for sure. And he's like, just tough it out, just tough it out. So I was like, don't cry, be strong like my big brother, don't cry. We get home, and my mom's there. I was like, Mom, I've hurt myself very badly, and just show her the thing. She's like, oh my God, we have to get you out of here. So I feel like that was kind of the foundation of like always trying to keep up with them. When I was 11, my parents split up, and that was like a big cavern in our family, and we actually ended up splitting up as well. So he stayed living with my dad, and I went to live with my mom in the city. Different opportunities, and I think in my mind at that age, because they asked us like, oh, who do you want to live with? It's like, I can't decide at that age. So because my brother kind of wanted to stay there, he had his friends in the small town. I was like, I guess it's fair, like one stays with dad and one goes with mom or something. So with that split, it was like a fundamental shift in our family dynamics, of course. And I think that was kind of the first catalyst where I started to kind of grow as my own person. And I remember going to a big school in the city, being terrified, and my mom said, oh, you go to a big school and there's apples and oranges and peaches and bananas instead of like just bananas at the small school. So you could just, that small fish in a bigger pond, like you can just grow a little bit more, which was very true. So kind of fast forward through school, I ended up a little bit lost after high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was really good at science and math and different things. So I was like, oh, I guess I go to university. Like, I'm not really sure. So I took out a loan, went to university for a couple years, but it didn't really connect with me. And I felt like I was just going into debt, but I didn't want to be doing stats or working in a lab for the rest of my life. So yeah, I ended up just working a bunch of random jobs. I know you were in construction. I had jobs installing sewer pipes for a while.
Wow.
I worked at different barns and stables because my background is horses, and I'm one of those weird like horse girls growing up. But yeah, so I was kind of floating, lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'd always admired aviation and people in it, but because I didn't see anybody who looked like me in that position, it literally didn't even occur to me that it was an option for a job. So yeah, I did a load of different things. And then I had one random job where, those like fruit caravans on the side of the road? I was working one of those, which was an amazing job. I just ate fruit, read books, and got suntanned all day. Loved it. I actually paid pretty well. And the cherries we had there, they were actually blow dried by helicopter. So in Canada, before they do the harvest, cherry trees are growing, cherries are on it, but because it gets so cold at night and then really warm in the morning, the condensation on the fruit actually makes the fruit burst and then it rots and then the crop is no good. So they used to have these big vans that would drive up and down with a blow dryer on it to dry the cherries. And then somebody had the great idea, oh, let's use a helicopter because you can just do a couple passes, do a load of different fields in, a tenth of the time, and then just, maximize that production.
Fascinating.
Very random. So anyway, I was telling everybody about this because I was like, this is the coolest thing. There's helicopters for these cherries. People were like, okay, don't care. And then one girl came by. She was like, oh, I do that. I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, my dad has this company in Washington and we have Rainier cherries and they're the best. And da-da-da. And I was like, interesting. And I wish I got her number or name or contact information because this person completely changed my life and they're a stranger because I just couldn't stop thinking about it after that. So I ended up teaching myself the phonetic alphabet because I thought that was the most important thing before flying. And got a few different books, ended up getting my medical, and just wanted to see if it was even an option. Talked to a few different schools, and I was like, okay, this seems legitimate. So I ended up going to Victoria, which is on the west coast in Canada, to just do a trial flight, and went for my first half an hour flight. Realized that I couldn't see myself do anything else. We went up there and just looking around in the freedom and just being able to witness things that other people in the world have never witnessed. And especially in a helicopter, the freedom of movement, you just can't emulate that any other way. So came back after the flight and ended up getting a ride home with one of the other students that was there. And he told me that girls will never get a job. You can't lift field drums. Don't even try, like, you're an embarrassment, essentially. And I had about half an hour with him driving back to the city where he was essentially berating me this whole time. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And then I stopped.
No way.
Yeah, and didn't try. So I completely took on board all of his fears, his perception of what a helicopter pilot looked like, and completely accepted it. So ended up doing a few other random jobs. When in doubt, go traveling.
Yeah.
So I went to Indonesia for a trip and ended up meeting a girl as I landed in Jakarta. Cute German girl wearing this lovely little scarf. And I was like, oh, I like your scarf. That's nice. And we just started chatting. We ended up traveling together for the entire month, which was really cool. So she also had a huge impact on my life and career. And ended up telling her, oh, what are you going to do? Da-da-da. She was asking me the same, just comparing life notes. And I was like, oh, like I was thinking about this flying thing, but, girls can't lift field drums. It's going to be too hard. Like, nobody's going to want me in the industry. And she was like, well, who cares what he thinks? And I was like, oh, yeah, who cares what he thinks? Like, it was so profound to just not acknowledge what another person told you about yourself, especially at that age. Like, I was early 20s and still forming my personality, everything you don't really know at the time. So from that, I was like, yeah, who cares what he thinks? And ended up going back home for a bit, worked a few more jobs to make some cash, and was able to get a loan to cover half of the cost for training. Worked 3 jobs to make the rest of the money up. I can list some of those random jobs if you want.
Yeah, go on.
One of
Let's
my-
get in there.
Yeah.
I love the randomness.
Yeah, one of my friends, she used to joke that my resume was like a scroll because it's just like, and you've done this, and you've done this. So one of them was, we call it beer hawking, which is at like a football stadium, Canadian football, which is like American football, but 55 yards for some reason. And you go and you have like the harness with the like stack of beer and you pile it up and then go up into the stands and get your beer here.
Yeah, I've done that at cricket here. It's a hard job.
Yeah,
Like,
it's heavy.
yeah.
Liquid is very heavy.
Yeah.
Sorry, let's have a sip.
Yeah, I had a backpack with a gun, and it's probably the hardest job I have ever had. And I only did it I only lasted 1 day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I did it for, probably a year and a half, but just the events and when there was a game on.
Right.
Yeah, and I hustled doing that and would just come home with like beer-soaked 20s just shoved in every,
Okay.
every crevice. So that was one of them. But so I was able to make enough cash to go pay for my flight training.
Because I'm guessing
least
it's not cheap, right?
So when I did it in Canada, it was 50,000 Canadian for the commercial license.
Right.
I think here in the UK now it's like 150,000 pounds.
Yeah.
If not more, depending on what ratings you're getting. Because then if you do your instrument rating and stuff on top of that, it's exorbitantly expensive. So that's one of the main barriers of why people can't get into it.
If you get a job, is there a case of a bit like with the RAF that if you are going to work for them or join the forces that it's paid for, or is that not an option? Is most people pay it up front and then go for a job?
So in fixed wing, they do have a lot more like cadet programs. So I think even British Airways, they have a program where you're sort of out of school, you go through training with them, and they essentially pay for your training and then you're bonded to them for a certain amount of years. I think Bristow Helicopters is still doing that, but it's, I think they only do 2 candidates a year. So out of the entire pool of the UK population is pretty minimal. There might be a few other ones that I haven't heard of, but a few scholarship opportunities. Otherwise, you have to get a loan, finance it yourself, or have very wealthy parents. I don't know what the other alternatives are.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very expensive.
So you financed it yourself?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All
it's
in.
very expensive. And then I told myself once I was in the industry, I would stay in it at least as long as it took me to pay back those loans.
Right.
So that was sort of, I bonded myself in a way of, okay, I'm going to hold myself accountable. It was a bit tricky as I was doing flight training. Love my dad to pieces. He can be a little bit of a loose cannon sometimes, but he actually came to visit and ended up getting himself into trouble, is then asking me for money while I'm going through my flight training. And it's like, that's not going to happen. So he's an exceptional human, has some addiction issues, and it's just like another barrier of like, I need to just get through it. So going back to my first bit of being able to follow my heart through that resilience and just doing it anyway, finding a way, sort of like tooth and nail to make it happen. So that was essentially how I got to flight training. Should I carry on with?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just
take me.
rambling now.
No, this is
Okay,
it. This
good.
is good. I love this.
Yeah, cool. So finished my flight training, and that was all on the West Coast in Canada. And then I was able to get a job closer to Edmonton, so more northern Canada, doing pipeline patrol. So it wasn't a flying job, but my first job in the industry, we were operating thermal imaging equipment to do like pipeline scanning, which you guys do here as well. So that was really good, and I got to see kind of every corner of Western Canada and really got that utility experience. So, fueling aircraft from the drums, we'd be flying around in the winter trying to find off a GPS point where your fuel drums are, and you're looking and it's just like snow, and then there's like a little bit of a lump where maybe the barrels are, but you're not totally, and then you have to dig them out and just to get the wobble pump set up.
Was this to refuel to keep going?
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
So they'd just be this kind of just very large, so really remote areas, especially where these pipelines are developed. So that was quite cool to see that side of the industry. I ended up transferring, because this was sort of like 2009, so oil and gas was starting to plummet, and not the best time to be looking for jobs in the aviation industry, but here we are. There was a company I really wanted to work for based out of Vancouver. They had Sikorsky 76s, so it's a 12-passenger helicopter, and they had a scheduled service between Vancouver and Victoria, and then also did air ambulance and had some other charter stuff. Sort of a lump in my throat. So I'd applied at that company 4 times and finally got an interview. Was able to start with them still doing ground operations. So I would sell tickets for helicopter tours up on one of the mountains, which was good. And the lady who was flying there was epic, another massive influence in my career. And she kind of took me under her wing and we'd fly up together. So she'd let me do the radio. She kind of got me into it, selling the tickets, getting the helicopter ready. And she'd have me do kind of as much as I could at that stage until I was given a flying job. I did that for a couple summers and then did eventually get that flying position. So then I was doing the tours, which was really good because it was single pilot in the mountains, like dream job come true for me. Take off from Vancouver Heliport, fly through the Coast Mountains. Everybody's loving it. iPads in front, not watching anything. It's like, just look at the mountains.
Oh, man. When you say single pilot, it's just you?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'd be scared shitless, but this is what you do,
it's
right?
Great. Love
it's
it.
a job.
Yeah. I've had a lot of random jobs, and a lot of them were in transportation. So my friends actually used to call me the Minister of Transportation because of that. So I was always driving something. So I feel like, I don't know, I just loved it. And I never really felt afraid of doing it. Maybe I should have, but I just loved being able to share that experience with people, especially doing tours at the beginning, because I was so excited about it. I was like, look at this, isn't it crazy? And they're like, yeah, it's amazing. So we'd do that from Vancouver. And then as I was sort of a mix of flying, a mix of ground stuff, fueling, and doing passenger services, I was able to finish my instrument rating. So paid for that as well. I had another job working at a restaurant so that I could have enough cash to pay for the flight training while I was working this job. And once I got the instrument rating, then I could start as a first officer on the Sikorsky 76. So that was doing sort of passenger services between Vancouver and Victoria. And that company was really good because they had kind of a graduated program where you could start as a first officer, move up to captain, go onto the air ambulance, move up to captain, and it was sort of a stepping stone back and forth.
So you could see where you were going.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
And it was quite diverse because a lot of companies, you can kind of get stuck in that co-pilot role where you don't have enough pilot and command time to advance and get the license.
Right.
So at least I had flown the other helicopter first, had that captain time, was able to get the licenses and kind of graduate through. So I was there for about 6 years, and we did a load of different stuff. So at least had that diversity. It was a good place to cut your teeth, so to speak. Everything was to the threshold, so we were always really heavy. The weather was always terrible in the winter. We had really high-pressure clients, so we would be flying the premier of the province, which is like an MP here, essentially. And because Victoria is the provincial capital, but Vancouver is kind of the business capital, and the only alternative is a 6-hour ferry. So if they need to get there for the day, we take the helicopter. And so me, new captain, telling the premier of the province, I'm sorry, this flight is going to be canceled today because of icing conditions. And they're just like in your face, not almost spitting at you. And it's just like, sorry, it's not happening. Yeah. So learning how to say no at that stage of my career was instrumental, and I feel like that's helped me all the way through.
That always fascinates me, that people challenge, like you're stepping into something that, there's things that can happen, in any aircraft when adverse weather conditions, especially like Canada. I mean, you guys get everything.
Yeah.
I just never would challenge something like that. Like,
people have very important things to do.
Yeah, but like it's,
and they just get so pigeonholed. And you try and explain the consequences. So helicopters are quite different from airplanes. Like, you take off from an airport in the winter and they spray the wings down and you can put the de-icing agent on them. Mm-hmm. Helicopters, you can't do that. There's some that have heated blades and you can go into some icing conditions, but most passenger ones you can't. So the ice builds up on the blades and then the blades stall and then you just start descending uncontrollably. So unless you have enough altitude and warmth to have that ice break off before you hit the ground, like, bad news.
Yeah.
So exactly, the consequences are really high, and you try and explain this to people, and they're furious at you, absolutely furious. And you're like, I don't know what to tell you. We're not going. You can try a different way.
Yeah.
But I won't be on that helicopter. So, yeah.
That's crazy. I got a little bit into, well, I still do. I'm fascinated by, there's a YouTuber. It's a husband and wife called Becky and Chris. I don't know if you've ever come across them.
Okay, I haven't, no.
They have bought their own helicopter. It's a Robinson?
Yep, that's a thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Well
Some knowledge. They have a Robinson, and they, he's a doctor, I think, and she's a content creator, and they just fly up and down the country.
That's the dream. Nice.
Yeah, it's incredible. They've blacked it out, but they do this journey across America, I think to the Robinson's factory to have it has to be reconditioned every so many years. And I'm just fascinated by weather conditions, how it's affected, and how different it is to flying a plane. It is. I kind of got into a helicopter deal, and I was like, no, that is never going to be a world of mine of owning a helicopter. But it is fascinating, and I think unless people know, I don't know, maybe even if those people know, they would still challenge. But so that gave you a sense of, like, how old were you when you felt comfortable in saying no and challenging, or was it just part of the job?
I mean, never, but it is. I would say, oh, how old would I have been? Probably about 24.
Wow, so really
I was young,
young.
yeah.
Yeah.
And people look at me and they're like, who are you? Like, get out of the
Yeah.
way. Where's the pilot?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Nobody ever thinks I'm the pilot. And that would be my most satisfying thing. They'd be like, oh, are you the pilot? Just say, nope, and start up the 76 and then fly away. You just need to have a quip or two. But
24, yeah,
it's
that's
pretty young.
yeah.
But I mean, I understood the gravity of the circumstances. I know what the regulations are. I know what physics are
Yeah.
and how it won't work. So yeah, anyway, I guess that's just one of the lessons you have to learn.
Yeah. So from that job then, what was the next? I mean, that's quite a lot up into the age of 24. What came after that?
So I was at that company for a while. The next stage, I actually got a scholarship to fly on night vision goggles, which was exceptional. So there's a group called the Whirly Girls who have been instrumental in my career, and I wouldn't be here without them. Like, the amount of stuff and the support and the networking and mentorship that they offer has, completely made my career. So I got this night vision goggle scholarship, and once I had flown on goggles, I went back to flying at night without them and realized how scary and dark the world actually is. And we were doing black hole landings and all kinds of stuff it's just really dark.
Okay, so you can fly it. Oh my God! You can. I mean, great name, Whirly Girls.
They're cool.
So you can fly in the dark.
Yes.
But then the night vision goggles, is that for a specialist type of flying then?
Yeah, exactly. So you can fly in the dark. You still need visual reference. So you still need some sort of ambient light, cultural lighting, something like that to go, and then lighting on the aircraft as well. With night vision goggles, they pick up all of the photons that are in the air, enhance it through a phosphor tube, and then it projects it essentially on these like tiny little TV screens in front of your eyes. So you can see it. It's two-dimensional, so the depth perception isn't there, but it looks like daytime almost.
wow.
It's incredible. Oh, if you haven't looked through them, you have to. That's
Right,
great.
yeah.
Yeah. See if you can like hit up
And
a
what
military base.
what type of work would that get you into?
So obviously the military uses it for a load of different things. A lot of the HEMS and air ambulance operators use it. So because they're flying at night, even here in the UK, a lot of the counties, they'll be flying on MVGs at night. And it just, I don't even know how to explain how much it enhances safety. You can just see where you're landing instead of following a searchlight down a bit of a tunnel where you can lose your reference really easily. It's hard to tell how quickly you're actually traveling if you're not monitoring the gauges inside. And a lot of incidences have happened at night because people have lost reference. And you think you're climbing, you're not watching the gauge because your body is full of all these weird illusions. Or you fixate on one light, but if that's all the light you have, it starts moving around and you can't actually see it. So there's a load of things that can happen, and obviously the worst has occurred because of that. So with night vision goggles, you literally can just see the world around you. Yeah, and you don't have any peripheral, so you have to turn your head to look, but at least you have that sensation of movement. You can pair it with the instrumentation and land way more safely. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's good. So I ended up moving to another air ambulance company because of this night vision goggle scholarship, who was using goggles already. I flew with them for a few years. They were in northern Canada. I was there for 2 years, and the second winter, it didn't go above -50 for 2 months, and it absolutely broke my spirit. It's just so cold because we'd come back from a job, and our jobs are quite long. So the closest trauma center is 450 kilometers away. So we would fly that leg, come back 3 o'clock in the morning, get out of the aircraft. Whoever pulled the short straw, you have to feel it. So we'd be sitting outside and that wind is just shooting down your back. Your hands are freezing. Like you were saying, your
Frozen,
eyelashes are
I
freezing
don't-
shut.
yeah.
You can't close your eyes too tightly because they just don't open again. It's just everything is so hard. And I admire the crew that was working there so much because we would, fly out to a terrible car accident. They'd be in the ditch, up literally 3 feet of snow, clambering around, trying to save this person. We would keep the aircraft running to try and keep it warm. And we ended up deferring the decision to move a patient to them, because in the time it took to move the patient from the helicopter into the hospital, which would be maybe 3 minutes, all the lines would freeze. So if that's going to be detrimental to the patient, then we can't move them by helicopter. So it's just a completely different world and experience. Luckily, we had a heated hangar, so we could put the aircraft away and keep it warm at night. So because of that, I ended up moving to the equator and got a job in Kenya because it was so cold. I was like, oh, equator sounds pretty good. So I saw a posting for this job and kind of as a joke threw my resume in. And they called me back right away and asked when I could go down there. So I had to call my mom and say, oh, Mom, I think I just got a job in Africa. She's like, what are you actually doing? So ended up moving to Kenya and worked there for about 4 years. It was also a lot of night vision goggle operations. So we were providing the med cover for the British Army. They have this big training camp down there. And we would pick up the troops that had either shot themselves in the foot or been impaled by an elephant, or lots of heat stroke, lots of really bad falls from height, because they were doing a lot of like mountain operations. And our elevation is really high too. So we would take off from about 6,500 feet, and the density altitude, because it's so warm, would be about 9,000 feet. So the helicopter thinks it's on the top of a mountain. So when we went to pick them up, we would be doing night vision goggle dust landings. So we would set up, they call it a NATO T. So you take water bottles and put essentially glow sticks in them. One is infrared, so you can see it on the goggles, and one is normal. So you set them up 1, 2, 3, and 2 on the corners. So you have essentially a little mini runway. And then you come in to land, you set up your approach, there's 2 of you. One person is calling your speed and descent, and you're watching this as the dust cloud absorbs you behind, and you essentially have those 3 points of light that you're using to land as it disappears, and you're looking through your little toilet paper tubes.
Oh my God.
And we would have sometimes on our exercises, you'd see one of the lights moving, and you're like, what is that? And it's a hyena that's taken the light away.
Cool.
Because they love the like crunchy, just like a dog, they love just like crunching the bottles, or maybe they wanted the water from inside, I'm not sure, but it was like, okay, now we have a NATO L, not a T anymore, as this thing goes off into the distance. So yeah, my stories are not very relatable, but
Yeah, that's cool.
that was a good one. So yeah, flying on goggles there was instrumental, because it'd be pitch black. We're in the Kenyan desert with very low ambient light, if any, and it's really quite magical. And this would happen in northern Canada too, when it's so dark. The goggles, it's called scintillation, so you get kind of like a sparkly static, and that's literally the photons of light hitting the phosphor screen, and seeing things like the Kenyan sky with that scintillating, magical. Seeing the northern lights in Canada on that, it's like, oh, it still gives me goosebumps. It's like the most beautiful thing. So we'd take turns and be like, okay, I'm just going to take a break. If you can just fly, I'm just going to look out the window for a second and try and just take this all in, because it's truly, truly stunning.
And I'm guessing at night, on both sides of the coin in Canada and Kenya, would you have seen quite a lot of wildlife?
Yeah, definitely. And you can see it quite clearly. They're just, walking around. So in Kenya in particular, where we were, it was also a nature reserve, so loads of elephant and giraffe. Rhinos we had to watch out for, because they would get quite confused by the noise, and when they get confused, they just get really like stompy and angry. So there was one time I remember we were just doing circuits to practice and keep our night currency up, and there was a rhinoceros, same thing. I think he'd seen the lights on our T and came to check it out, and then we're flying over, and he's confused in the dust cloud and stomping. It's like, do we overshoot? There's a rhinoceros there. Do we overshoot? So we ended up going around. Again, kind of a weird problem to have when there's a rhinoceros in the way of your landing site.
Oh my God, this is fascinating. And were you based in the military base?
We were really lucky, and we were based at like a little golf course outside of the military base. They did end up moving us inside after a couple of years. Through COVID, it changed everything, so it made the travel really difficult. Even getting parts and stuff down there was pretty tricky. So they changed the dynamic, but originally we just stayed at this golf course and had a nice little view of Mount Kenya and a little espresso. It's great.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was cool. And then we had staff accommodation as well. So there was sort of a compound that we lived in, and then we'd come to work, and that's where we kept the aircraft. So our landing site was essentially a driving range that we would take off from.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Well, it's good.
So there's quite a few elements in there. There's the transporting of people, there's the tourist part, and then there's, you know, working in getting it high pressured. It's already high pressure, I imagine, to fly a helicopter, but then add in, you know, the service that you're then providing, which I think leads quite nicely into the job that you do now. So then how did you go from Kenya to the UK?
Yeah, so I met my current husband. Well, we met initially in Kenya. I was in the process of blowing up my life in Canada, because who would have thought being away for most of the year would not be great for a relationship? Because I was doing a rotation of 8 weeks on, 4 weeks off. So I essentially would only be home 3 months out of the year.
Right.
So unfortunately, that didn't work very well. So I ended up coming to the UK for a date, essentially, when we could start to travel again during COVID. And yeah, ended up meeting my partner. He had kids here from his previous marriage, and I was pretty much living in a suitcase. So it's like, oh, England sounds cool.
So you
We'll
flew
give it a try.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Did you specifically come to the UK for a date?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we went to the Malverns. It was lovely.
Did you
Yeah.
did you fly yourself, or did you get on a commercial plane?
Airplane, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's like, that'd be so cool to just be like, oh, there's a
Oh,
date.
I'll just pop over. Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, wow,
Yeah,
that's pretty
so-
cool.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It was a bit of a process to do the license conversion here, because I had to do 13 exams. Went to Germany to go do a skills test in the simulator, and then getting the visa and everything. It was a bit tricky. That took some time, especially during COVID. I remember one time, because I was still working back and forth in Kenya, I was trying to travel here, and it was one of the days that they were red listing countries. So I think it was Kenya, Pakistan, India, I can't remember, maybe Thailand or something, were all red listed. So everybody descended on Terminal 5 at the exact same time. I was the last flight out of the country before not being able to leave.
Right.
And there's so many like high stress scenarios like that during COVID trying to travel. It
Yeah.
was pretty ridiculous, but yeah.
Oh wow.
We can skip that COVID part. Everybody just like
Yeah.
gap that year.
Yeah.
what
Whatever
was,
happened
what was
during-
2020, 2021? It just disappeared.
Lost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so then I ended up getting a job doing charter, like VIP flights here in the UK. And that was quite cool, especially for, you know, little Canadian from small town Alberta, getting to land at these gorgeous manor houses, flying in and out of London, going to some of the events like Silverstone, Glastonbury, Ascot, Cheltenham. And
So this is wealthy people that just
Yeah.
want to charter a flight. I have seen this where people are like, yeah, need a flight from their estate to wherever.
to Leeds.
Yeah.
So that's why we would come up here too. There's quite a few.
What would they come to Leeds for?
A lot of them had their houses up here, so they
Oh.
would go down to London,
Yeah.
or if they needed to get down to London for the day or for a trip, or to, I don't know what people do down there, spend some money, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know, go shopping, and then we would fly them back to their garden and drop them off here. So
Wow.
Yeah.
So it gives you
It's
good
next level.
insight into like that world of wild.
yeah, people say it's how the other half lives. It's not. It's how the other like 0.01%
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty
Yeah.
incredible. But even just going to the events was really eye-opening because it's so busy. Like Silverstone, I think, is the busiest helicopter aerodrome in Europe during that stage. Like there's literally hundreds of helicopters coming in and out of there at the same time over those days. It's organized chaos. And I remember coming into land one time, flying the 145, which is a beautiful aircraft. And I went to lift and turn to depart, and I looked to my left, and there's, I think, 14 helicopters all stacked up, waiting to come into land. So everybody like puts on the brakes to slowly hover in to come. It's like, I better get out of the way. And now we're leaving.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that was really exciting.
Did you ever take anyone in really cool or famous?
Yes.
Ah,
I
you
won't
allowed
say
to
who.
Are we allowed to say like pop star, film star?
Both, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, no, drivers, owners, celebrities.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because anybody who, I hate the expression anybody who's anybody, but the people who are involved in the event, they're not going to sit in traffic for 3 hours to get there. So we fly them in.
Right.
Yeah.
And conversation-wise, is it a case of do you have any interactions with these people? It depends on the personality.
Depends on the person. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would always give them a safety brief, and then you kind of get a good feel if they're literally just like ignoring you. You're like, have a nice
Are you,
flight.
are you the only pilot?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did
so-
anyone request to sit up front?
Yep, we regularly have passengers
Oh,
up
that's
front.
cool.
So yeah, we get them
Yeah.
involved, and they get the best view. But yeah. So sometimes we would have two pilots in that operation, but it was mostly single pilot that we would do.
Right.
So that was good. And then
Do you get to go to the events or experience anything? Or you do?
yeah, I felt so privileged because we would usually have a busy morning because you want to sort of shuttle everybody in. So you'd generally be picking up, dropping off at the same place in the morning. And then you'd have a bit of a break. So me being a horse nerd, I was like, oh my God, Cheltenham, we're here.
Okay.
So then you could actually go to the races for a few hours and then, go back and you have to shuttle back out in the afternoon. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was your first introduction into the UK?
Yeah. Yeah. UK flying, which was great. I was very conscious of my accent and my Canadianisms. So I'm still struggling, but have been doing a lot of work just to pick up a little, not RP or anything, but just to speak very clearly on the radio. For an example, I would say, I'll use my call sign. I was Woodstock 24 coming into Battersea is how I'd say it. And nobody knew what I was talking about. So I would 24 into Battersea. And then people would understand.
Oh God, we're so bad, aren't we? It's like
you can see where they're coming from because people just aren't expecting
right.
things to sound like that. And then, I don't know, it's just a weird Canadian over here.
I bet is the weather here pretty awesome for you in terms of flying in that we don't really get that bad weather? Compared to Canada.
The winters here can be tricky, especially in a helicopter. So like today is good because it's cool and clear, but if it was cloudy, you can't fly into the icing conditions.
Right.
So it still does pose its challenges. So anytime, it's kind of 2 degrees or less on the ground, you have to be very conscious of going to ice, which you can't. So then you're trying to see where the systems are coming through. The forecasting here is not great.
It's
I think
terrible,
because there's so many different elements, right? And you have big coastal fronts coming through. You have a big landmass beside you, small little island, very localized phenomenon that are happening with a lot of the hill fog and that kind of thing. So, you get a forecast, you're trying to land in the Yorkshire Moors or something. They don't know what it is. There's a couple web cameras. So it's difficult to know what it's going to look like until you get there. So you always have to have sort of a card in your back pocket of, if I can't get there, where am I going next?
Yeah.
Especially if it's at night. It just adds that whole other level. And I had to go away from using goggles. And I was like, oh my God, the world is so dark again. I forgot.
Is that just because we don't use them here, or?
So in the charter world, not so much. The air ambulance and HEMS operators will, but they have there's like this whole underground industry of guys that drive around the country and set up landing sites for helicopters with fuel and lights all over. And
Just as a hobby kind of thing?
No, it's their business. It's,
oh, wow.
And I think they do quite well. I didn't ask them about their finances, but so they were such a godsend because we would fly to these places that are darker than the inside of a cow, is a Canadian expression. But they would set up, turbo flares with lights. There'd be a Bowser there with fuel. So at least if you knew you could get to that, you're like, okay, I'm home safe. I can get some fuel and then go back without having to divert to an airport.
And how, I imagine, what's the pay system? Is it like an honesty box, or is there?
There'll be people there. So there'll be 2 guys,
okay.
but they would invoice normally to the company that hired me to go there. Yeah.
So if you got a bit of private land, you could just kind of really set up a fuel station.
Yep. There you go. There's another side hustle for you.
Yeah, there we go. Just buy a field somewhere. That's kind of cool, though. I like that.
Yeah, and it's something that I didn't really know about because we don't have any of that infrastructure at home. But it's so busy with the charter stuff here, and there's enough demand that keeps them busy.
Yeah.
So
outside of the chart stuff, then you then moved into working for the company. Was that the next progression?
Yeah,
working
exactly.
For the charity, that you're with now.
For sure. So I think when I left Kenya, I was a little bit burnt out from doing HEMS because obviously you're just showing up on the worst day of people's lives all the time. And I thought I was done with that and that I wanted to do something completely different. I realized while I was doing the charter stuff that I actually deeply missed it and kind of missed having that mission, that purpose behind flying. And flying people to these cool places is amazing, but you get to a point where you feel like you're burning holes in the sky, kind of. And just the lifestyle is just quite unpredictable because they say jump, you say how high in the charter world. So at least with HEMS, it's a little bit more scheduled, easier to plan. And again, have that mission again. London's Air Ambulance has been a dream company of mine for a long time. Like it just seemed like something that was impossible when I was in Canada, especially trying to get the UK license, because even at home it's like, oh, it's impossible. You have to do all these exams, you have to do this, you have to do that. And it was challenging, but like anything, you just have to jump through the hoops. So started with them this year and it's been incredible. They're a really cool organization that's doing some incredible stuff. So they have a slightly different profile from some of the other air ambulance operators in the country, where in the counties, the goal is to get the helicopter to the patient and get that patient back to the trauma center as fast as possible. Where at London's Air Ambulance, we essentially deliver that trauma team to the street level. So they're doing really incredible, insane things at the street level that you just can't find anywhere else. So we drop that team off at the patient, and then they tend to actually move by road. The other thing is that it's a charity. So like a lot of the other operators in the country, it's fully charity run and backed by donations. And it's amazing that, you know, they have that support from the community because people understand how much of a need there is for that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So would you, if you fly out to an accident, would you land, drop the doctors off, and then take off? Do you take off straight away and go back, or
so
do
we
you
tend
hang
to
around?
wait because depending on the condition of the patient, sometimes the crew will just come straight back to us. Either they're fine or they're not. So sometimes they'll just come straight to us, and then we all go back to the Royal London Hospital together. More often, we'll wait, and then the crew will tell us which hospital they're going to. So generally, because of the geography, they'll go to a certain hospital, whether that's St. Mary's, King's College, St. George's, or I think it's dependent on the beds as well and what level of skill is available at the hospital. Sometimes we'll fly with the patient. That doesn't happen as often because it actually takes a bit more time. And as we were saying, every time you move a patient, if they've had sort of a neck or a back injury, you're just inducing more trauma, essentially. So if they can just get them in the car, move to the hospital as fast as possible, just better patient outcomes. Our average flight time is about 7 minutes.
God,
so
that's crazy.
it's quick, especially when you're in Heathrow control zone. And we'll give them a quick phone call before we lift from the hospital, just to give them a heads up. There's essentially a grid system that's laid over top of the entire city. So you can say, we're going, you know, it's like a checkerboard. We're going to Square 88 and pop over there. So then at least they can queue it up if they need to divert any traffic. You know, if we're landing somewhere near Heathrow, we would make Emirates overshoot if we needed to. So we obviously avoid that to the best of our ability. But if for whatever reason we needed to, we have priority.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. It's the purpose of saving a life. So they'll do whatever they can to at least clear the path for us, part the sea, so to speak, so that we can get through. We obviously fly neighborly, and you know, for the sake of a 1 second turn, we'll stay out of the way to the best we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is the number one
That's
priority.
intense. So, I mean, from obviously with London, the traffic's horrendous. Getting around the city is hard with an ambulance. So you will fly, but I'm also in my head, I'm like, where the hell do you park in the helicopter? Are we rooftops? Are we like?
Yeah, so every day we bring the aircraft in from where we keep it in the hangar at night in northwest corner of London. We fly it in, we land on the roof at Royal London Hospital, and that's where our station for the day, essentially. So inside the M25 is where we primarily work, and we sort of spot out from there. We can go beyond that if there's a need for like a mass casualty incident, but for the most part, inside the M25, and we'll land in central London. We need, it's called 2D, so it's double the dimension of the helicopter, and that's essentially our requirement to land. So we can park in people's back gardens, we can park at Trafalgar Square, we can park.
You can literally just, as long as you've got the space, anywhere in London.
Yeah,
like in the
legally.
middle of a street.
If it's for a HEMS job, again, it's for the purpose of saving a life. So we again try to be neighborly about it, and you have to be conscious of the people that are around. If there's events going on, all of the debris and FOD, which is foreign object damage that can occur. So as you land the helicopter, obviously there's a lot of downwash that blows everything around. And the last thing you want is to have, you know, mom with her pram taking pictures and then the pram gets blown away. Like that would be horrendous. So you have to be really careful.
So you've got no team on the ground like pushing people away.
We will in some places. So like Trafalgar Square, there's security and police, and they'll be there. We also have an app on our iPad that's essentially just a mapping app that we can delegate a location that the police will come meet us. So sometimes they'll do crowd control, but generally it's up to us.
So you'll just be descending and people just need to be like, there's a helicopter landing.
So we have a siren, which we can turn on, which is great. And we also have a loudspeaker. So my voice comes out of the helicopter saying, the helicopter is trying to land. Please get out of the way. The helicopter is trying to land.
Wow.
Most people don't get it still, but yeah, we just do a couple passes sometimes. and then they'll kind of get the idea. But sometimes we can't land because people won't move. So it is key. If you hear a helicopter landing, even up here, it doesn't just have to be London. I know the counties struggle with this as well. If you're there, sunbathing, having a picnic lunch, and you see the helicopter approaching multiple times, please get out of the way because we're trying to help somebody.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So anywhere is on, like you can bring it down anywhere.
Pretty well, yeah.
And is the co-pilot deciding where you land, or?
So generally the captain is. Our operation is always 2 crew, so we have a flying pilot and a non-flying pilot. If there's 2 captains, you can switch roles as well. So generally the person in the left seat, which is opposite of an airplane, is the one doing sort of the navigation, the radios, coordinating with our dispatch team. And then when we land, they're also the safety pilots. So the second we've touched down, as soon as it's safe, you unbuckle and you jump out and you're trying to control the crowd and make sure that it's clear. As the crew comes out, you take their helmets, or at least if there's anybody coming, football tackle them if you need to keep them clear. People with dogs, people with footballs, all kinds of stuff that they're kicking at the helicopter. It's insane what people do. So we watch the crew go away, shut down the aircraft, and then it's our job, the 2 of us, to secure the landing site.
Right.
So generally the pilot in command will make the decision, but it is a team effort. We have, a few designated sites that we go to regularly, but if it's an ad hoc site, we both take a look at it. We're all looking out for wires, cranes, towers, church steeples, people, bicycles, rubbish. There's so much stuff that affects your decision to make that landing. Trees as well, this time of year can be tricky because, you have all these dangerous branches if they're going to come down. So yeah,
Where's the
always
craziest place that you've had to land?
Where's a good spot?
I imagine everywhere.
Yeah, honestly, there's anywhere we go. We do a lot of sort of like regular parks that are nearby. So Regents, Hyde Park, that kind of thing. I landed at Victoria Embankment, which was quite narrow. And there happened to be a running event on as well. So we were a little bit worried about, they had a bunch of flags and banners and stuff. But it turned out to be great because there's a guy with a microphone who is totally on it. And he's like, everybody, back up, get out of the way. And then he kept everybody corralled, essentially, as we settled down. And then they're like, okay, we're going to let the run go. So then they all released the people after we landed. It worked perfectly.
Oh, my gosh. And when the doctors come into your helicopter, are you aware of the situation? Or is your remit just to fly to a certain place? Are you aware of the gravity of what you're going to, what they're going to? Do you hear the discussions in the back? How much involvement do you have? And how do you separate? I imagine that could be quite impactful.
It can be. We generally get a one-liner, so it's a very brief description of a fall from height, stabbing, car accident, something like that, where it's just very basic. For me personally, I try not to ask for as many details as possible until maybe after. But even then, I tend not to, so I can have that separation because the last thing you want to do is hurt 5 more people because of a decision you made, because you're like, we have to get to that child that's drowning. You can't let it affect your decision making.
Yeah.
It's not part of it. So I know it sounds a bit insensitive, but I kind of think of it not as cargo in the back, but you have to have that separation where it doesn't actually hit you emotionally.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are jobs, especially when we go to scene, you are involved and there is an impact. And depending on the person, especially if it reminds you of a loved one, it can be really difficult. So,
because I'm guessing you're that close to the scene that you'll see whatever it is that you're...
Yeah, sometimes we'll go and hold the blood for them, carry bags. And obviously we won't do anything of medical nature because very unqualified for that. They are the masters of their craft in that department. But, it is a team effort and we are all involved. But saying that, we also support each other in that way. So a lot of times, you can see the crew come back and it's been a really bad incident and just check in. Are you okay? Anything to talk about? We'll have a big debrief after every flight as well. So you can kind of go through things that work, things that didn't work, difficulties with the scene, if you do need any support after it, if it did remind you of somebody, that kind of thing where at least we can lean on each other to check in. A little bit of dark humor also, which again sounds insensitive, but it does.
How you cope.
It does.
Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You do cope. But.
Yeah. So. Oh my God. So you're drawn to the job, I guess, because like you said before, it's helping. There's a bigger, it's not just getting in a helicopter. There's so much to it. You're part of a team. Yeah, it's a very important service. It's such a fascinating story arc of how you got there, and I think it's really it's very inspiring, but it's also hopeful to anyone, you know, that doesn't see like they could get into flying. To have this, you didn't have a parent that was in it.
No, not at all.
You literally just, you know, hustled, I think is a great word, to get, and I worked extremely hard to get where you're at, which I think is so important for people to hear. It's fascinating. I have so many questions on that. But weirdly enough, I was scrolling through your Instagram, and we'll go on a slight tangent.
Oh, good. Love a tangent.
So you loved horse riding. You've done this. I saw this post about this Mongolian race,
The Mongol Derby.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this is impressive. Tell me about this. I feel like extremes in your life are quite good.
I just, for some reason, don't like the easy way. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's like whatever I want to do, I have to choose the hardest path to get there.
Right.
That's unfortunately just ingrained in me. So the Mongol Derby is something that I had wanted to do from. Well, I wanted to ride a horse across Mongolia since I was about 19. Before I started flying, one of my other random jobs was working in Jasper, which is a beautiful mountain town in Alberta. And we were doing sort of backcountry trips on horseback, which was stunning. And there's a lot of girls from New Zealand there. And one of the girls, we've been talking about it. We're like, oh my God, we want to go to Mongolia. And we ended up doing a trip across Canada together, but didn't have a chance to do the Mongolia one. But it kind of planted the seed, and it was something I wanted to do from that age. About, I don't know how long, maybe 10 years ago, I had heard about the Mongol Derby and was like, that sounds insane. Like, who would do that? And then while I was in Kenya, sitting around, I was like, oh, you know, it's something I've just really, you know, you just have that like burning inside you of like something that you just need to do. So again, kind of as a joke, I put my name in, and it's a bit of a lottery to get a ticket for it.
Ah, okay.
So was selected. You have to show pictures and videos of you riding so that you can see that you're actually capable. But the Mongol Derby is the world's longest and toughest horse race. It is 1,000 kilometers across the Mongolian steppe. Sort of supported, but you are essentially left to your own devices. You are allowed 5 kilos of kit. You have horse stations along the way, and they give you GPS, and then they point you in a direction on a feral horse that's just been rounded up that morning, and then you try and find that spot without dying, essentially. So
A feral horse?
yeah,
So
they're
not
not
horse trained?
No.
So you've effectively got to break the horse
Yeah.
in. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. When I did it, you could get the Mongolian herders to ride them first, which I did because I have self-preservation and a career I'd really like to maintain. So they, you know, you get the saddle on with all of your kit. We had a saddle bag and a rucksack, which essentially was everything you needed to camp out in the middle of nowhere if you needed to. They would buck, like go rodeo show all the way around. They'd be like, here you go, here's your horse. We're like, okay.
So how many days is the race?
So you have to complete it within 10 days, or if you end up too slow or too far behind, you get picked up by something called the blood wagon, which is a van that scoops up everybody who has either been injured or you got too sick or mentally you just couldn't compete anymore, and you end up getting swept. So you have 10 days to complete it. I did it in 9 days, and I think I ended up doing 1,240 kilometers or something. So you have to do at least 100 kilometers a day. They set it up.
Are we talking at speed then? So like, are the horses, are you cantering?
Out of control gallop. Like literally no control.
Like full stop, like for a full day?
So they set it up, they're kind of emulating Genghis Khan's Pony Express. So from these horse stations, you get a new horse each time. So at the beginning.
Oh, so you get a new, oh my God, so a new horse.
What? So you have to learn how to bond with this horse instantly, or you'll just be fighting for 30 to 40 kilometers is how long each leg is. So you do 3 or 4 legs each day, changing horses each time. You'd keep your kit and the saddle and the bridle with you. And then if you made it to a horse station that night, you could stay in the gur, which is like the yurts that are set up with a little fire inside. If you don't make the horse station, you camp with a wild horse. in the middle of nowhere.
So there's the chance that the horse could just go.
Yeah,
Or-
lots
or-
of them ran away. There was one girl that I was riding with a little bit. I think she lost her horse 6 times. Luckily, there was a herder nearby that was able to go out on their motorbike, catch the horse with all of her stuff. But there's so many stories of people who lost all their stuff because it's on the horse, and now you don't have your sleeping bag, you don't
You're in
have
the middle
anything.
of nowhere, the Mongolian
Middle of
desert.
nowhere. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is like Dakar Rally, but
Yeah, same kind of idea, exactly. So it's run by a group called the Adventurous, and they come up with like the most ridiculous things. So they did the Mongol Rally also, which is from London to Ulaanbaatar,
Yeah.
in something that was less. You need like a 1 liter engine or less, something unless it
Yeah.
has comedic value, like an ice cream truck, then you can do it. But their whole ethos is the adventure, and they want to set up these events where people can go and be tested, show up for yourself. It's really hard to talk about because I don't know how to explain it. Like it was literally the highest of highs where, I'm galloping on this beautiful out of control horse with just like mane, you're like spitting out of your mouth over these mountains, through these hills, and you think you're getting close to the horse station, and it's like, nope, another range. Nope, another range. It just keeps going.
It's just GPS.
Yeah, so they gave us a GPS, but that was point to point. So then we had Russian military nav maps from the 70s that had the topography at least, and mountains luckily don't change very much, but at least that way you could see, okay, there's a road
Yeah.
down this side, there's a river, bog, mountain range, and at least then you could sort of navigate a bit, but well, I don't know. For me, it was just a total crapshoot where I was like, I just need to get over there.
And are you completely on your own?
So we all start at the same time.
Right.
There was 42 people, I think, who started in mine. The summer I did it, they actually ran it twice because COVID had canceled it for a couple years. So then they did 2 groups, one in July, one in August. And yeah, so you all start together and then you end up, it's like a bike racer, people kind of end up in the thread at the end. So sometimes I rode by myself. I found the horses actually went better and it wasn't quite as defeating when you're just like alone trying to get this horse to go somewhere that it doesn't want to go. I found the best was sort of like 2 or 3 people together, could try and keep morale up. I did ride in a larger group for a bit. There's about 7 of us that were kind of a middle pack that were going. And that was a bit tricky because then it's kind of herding cats and keeping people together. And you obviously want to help each other out. But for me, it's like I still wanted to finish as well. And if somebody's horse doesn't pass the vet check, because every time you get to a horse station, they do a vet check and you have to make sure that the horse's heart rate comes down. So if they end up getting a penalty, they have to wait for 2 hours. And you're like, oh, do you wait for the person or do you just keep carrying on? So I'm glad that I did it by myself because I think it'd be really difficult to do it with somebody. And I
Yeah.
know there's a few friend groups that ended up getting separated, and it's a really tough dynamic because you want to finish, but also you want to stay with your group. So I did a little bit of group hopping kind of and ended up, I think we finished 15th out of the group.
Wow.
And half the people didn't finish. So yeah, it was really interesting. But then you also had the lowest of lows. So I remember getting to a horse station and it had been pissing with rain. It was so cold and it just soaked to the bone. I only have one change of clothes. So I had clothes to sleep in and clothes to ride in, and that was it. I had the luxury of a few extra pairs of pants, so that was like, that's my luxury item. It's like, I need fresh undies for this. But otherwise, you're just like in and out of the same clothes. So we all just so rank. It just smelled so badly. And
What about food?
so we would eat the Mongolian food, which
could be
is,
quite difficult, right? With
fermented horse milk. Have you heard of that?
no.
So it's milked from a horse. They ferment it, so it's alcoholic, and then you drink it and you get drunk on it. It's called ereg. Yeah, I got quite sick after that. There was
And then food, like, would you rock up on it to a restaurant, or like is it
No,
by the
so
side of the road?
it's the generosity of the Mongolian families would cook food for us. It was
Wow.
usually some arrangement of like noodles with a broth and a meat, and the
Okay.
meat was generally sheep or goat. So I had my fair share of goat in Kenya, but yeah, I can't eat goat anymore after this. So after the ereg, and I ended up, so that night we're like handing the fermented horse milk, drinking that, and then that night sleeping in the gur, in the yurt. it had been pissing with rain and it all came into the girth. So I just woke up in a puddle and got so sick. And that ended up taking out probably 10 to 12 people who just got, I don't know if it was norovirus or something, like people just got so ill. And I remember waking up at 12 o'clock, literally shivering and ill, went to the long drop, which is just a hole that
Yeah,
they dig.
we've all been there.
Yep.
It's not very long.
It's not very long, no. And I was there being sick, and I was like, oh, it's bow ties again, because we had been treated to bow tie pasta that afternoon. I was like, oh no. So can't have bow ties, can't have goat anymore after that. And I was so grateful. I ended up pairing up with this Australian girl who essentially carried me, because she had actually been sick as well and ended up dropping back a bit. We teamed up, and then I was ill, and I felt like I literally was just holding onto the saddle trying to stay on this horse, and she pretty much did the navigating and I could just follow her. So heart goes out to her essentially carrying me for that leg. But I feel like we kind of did that for each other. Like, you ended up helping out some people and then you need some help, so you had to be really careful with that dynamic of like, oh, screw everybody, because then nobody will help you when you do need help. And yeah, so the food poisoning was tough. That was not a great feeling. I think I lost 5 kilos by the end of that race, which is like the skinniest I've ever been. And I think it totally screwed up my hormones, and it just felt, like the lowest. But then as you build yourself back up, the last couple days that I was riding, I was doing like 250 kilometers each day. When I passed the finish line, I just wanted to turn around and do it again, because I felt like, I don't know, like the peak version of myself, where I was lean and strong and had probably been fasting for 4 days. So was getting like a fasting trip a little bit. And when we showed up at the final finish camp, they have a full setup. It's like full bar. They have music, generators, toilets, like everything. It's beautiful. There's a chandelier.
Oh, nice.
So they pull out all the stops for you. But I was so overstimulated. I felt like my ears were flicking around almost, where I'd only heard wind and horse noises, the sound of the grass, all this stuff. And then when I got to the finish camp, I like couldn't listen to conversations because there's different ones going on. I was like, oh, it's too many sounds. Like, this is just too busy for me. Obviously reintegrate into society after that. But I don't know, it's just like a really incredible opportunity to go through something like that. I guess that's how you learn, right? It's the challenges that you push yourself through to show up for yourself. I didn't give up, just kept going. That was my song that I would just sing to myself, just keep going to make it to the end. And I don't know, it's just like truly incredible.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, I definitely, any high stakes situation, I'd definitely trust you. You'd be that person in the group where I'd be like, this person has that nailed. Yeah, it's incredible. How do you cope in the, it's not an easy job, anything that you kind of do. Has it been a learning curve, or do you think it's something like innate in you that you kind of have always been able to chip into?
I definitely learning, and still learning to this day. Will probably be learning until the day I die. But I think it is just that doing hard things, but still being able to show up for yourself and prove to yourself, I can do hard things.
Yeah.
And then it's like building a callus, right? Well, I've done that. So now I can do one step harder. And now I can do one step harder. And as you progress, you improve. And then those scary things don't seem as scary.
Yeah.
Because they just kind of bring the bar up a little bit.
Yeah. All right, got to ask you, I guess, a final question, which is, I mean, we could talk for hours. There will have to be a part 2 and 3.
Go for coffee after this.
Yeah. What's next?
What is next? Well, I feel like I am in a position that I have been dreaming of for a long time. So I just want to finesse things. And I have a lot of room to grow in this role. I have so much to learn. The people that I'm working with are exceptional. They're at the top of their game. A lot of them have been doing it for decades. Some of them have been doing it for not as long, but they're like absolute legends in their field, whether it's the pilots, the doctors, the paramedics. So my goal right now is to just absorb as much as I can, to try and be the best that I can be, to deliver this service to the people of London, because it is a privilege to have this job. And I'm honored to be there. So I just want to do the best that I can, at least for the next while, and try not to burn out, because I know that can take people down in this industry. So to focus on a bit of personal stuff too, to make sure that I'm sound of mind, that I'm staying fit, that I'm checking in with myself so that I can make sure that I'm healthy to do the best that I can in this job. Yeah.
When you're not riding across Mongolia on a horse or an helicopter, what's downtime for you? What grounds you in terms of?
Yeah, I think movement in any form. Anytime I can get on the back of a horse and go for a good gallop, that's like the best therapy there is, really. But do lots of road biking, lots of long walks with the dog. The dog is also like the number one therapist in the house, so she's great. Never talks back.
Type of dog?
She is a Labrador Husky.
I knew you were going to say that. I was just going to be like, is it a lab? I don't know why.
She's half lab, half husky.
Oh,
she's perfect.
dream.
She's good. Yeah, she's has like the food motivation of a Labrador, sort of. She's really picky, but like treat motivated. But then like the weird husky habits and like talks like a dinosaur. I don't know. It's just dogs. It's just great. Yeah. She's
so
lovely.
downtime is literally spending time in the country and just getting back to nature.
Anytime you can get some fresh air. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like, yeah, there's a million questions, but I'm conscious that we're kind of at an hour point now. Is there anything that you'd want to say to anyone that would want to get into your industry? I know you're a great advocate for getting more women in. It always takes one, doesn't it, to break through? And there clearly has been influential people on your journey, the key women that you've talked about. Yeah. Is there, I know that's the thing that you're passionate about, is sharing your story so that others can follow suit. But is there anything that you would like to say to anyone listening that is like, that's cool, I want to do that?
I would say, first step, go for a flight. You know, there's so many places around the country that you can just go for a half an hour flight like I did. And I think you'll know pretty quick whether it's for you or whether it's not. So probably a lot of people are not interested in it. You go and you're like, I don't want that control. I don't want that responsibility. But if you do have that bug and you feel that you can't picture yourself doing anything else, try it out, get into the industry. There's so many different scholarship programs. There's lots of people in the industry that you could speak to. I naturally shy away from this kind of thing, but I know how important visibility is. So if anybody wants to send me a message or reach out, I'm always happy to chat. So if it's not me, you know, find somebody else, whether it's a family friend or even somebody at your local airport, just go check it out and just see. I will say it is challenging and you do have to make sacrifices in this industry, but if you can't picture yourself doing anything else, it is worth it as long as you can just kind of stick it out and keep fighting the good fight. But yeah.
Amazing. And finally, would you have a dare for women? It can be like be more adventurous or a specific thing to do. But I like to ask if a guest has anything they can dare women to do.
I dare you to listen to your heart.
Okay.
Because sometimes it gets quieted by all of the noise around. So if you can truly take that second to ask yourself, what do I want? Who am I? What are my goals in life? Are the things that I'm doing today getting me closer to that? Are the things I'm doing today moving me away from that? I think that's the only way that you can actually feel truly satisfied in life is if you listen to that voice inside, but you have to tune in. Otherwise, you completely miss it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.